Hello, my name is Devin Grimm. I decided to research sex tourism. I thought it'd be a really interesting topic. I didn't even know what it was before I started researching it. The title of my presentation is The Organized Sex Industry. Okay. What is sex tourism? Sex tourism is when a person travels to a different region, country, community, or continent with the intention of participating in legal sexual activities, relationships, or any form of companionship. Usually this involves some form of exchange of compensation. And I chose this photo on the right. It's got a picture of a plane taking off with luggage nearby. I thought that'd be a good representation of just tourism in general before I dove into sex tourism. So on my third slide, I decided to put an example of how impactful sex tourism is in certain places, especially in the Caribbean. I don't know if you can see this graph, but it's showing 14 island states in the Caribbean, followed by the percentage of total gross national income. The average tourist spends $600 per visit, which may not seem like a lot, but it does account for 25% of the total GNI. And in 2010, this made up for $22.4 billion in total in the Caribbean. Just the Caribbean alone, which is a lot. GNI is the total amount of money earned by a nation's people and businesses. This basically helps to track a nation's wealth from year to year. This is showing just how impactful sex tourism can be on the economy, especially in the less wealthy areas of the states. The top 5 most impacted states in the Caribbean on this chart are Barbados, the Bahamas, Barbados, St. Lucia, and the Dominica. And these are just a couple of examples. On the next slide, I will be talking about the benefits of sex tourism. So, a lot of people connect romance tourism with sex tourism, and it's often split along gendered lines. Usually when people think of the people who are doing the sex work or sex tourism, the females are usually the workers and the males are usually the people who are paying for this kind of work. But in recent years and in recent studies, this has been shown to even out. So this means that sex tourism has become more gender equalized over time, which is crushing frequent stereotypes that has to do with sex tourism altogether. There are also more forms of sex tourism than just the ones relating to sex. This involves escorts, even professional cuddlers, and stuff like that. These things tend to provide a less risky and happy service for all who are involved. And the picture that I chose is titled Breaking Gender Stereotypes, 100 Stories of Impact by the Harvard Graduate School of Education. And I thought that this was a great example of just how far this whole stereotype has come and how it's become more gender equalized altogether. The next slide talks about the negative aspects of sex tourism. So some of the more obvious would be getting pregnant or getting somebody pregnant. And a lot of sex workers are in areas that have weak economies. There's a lot of poverty. So there's a high risk of getting no physical or financial help. There's also the risk factor of contracting diseases, and some are lifelong, unfortunately. And there usually is little to no safety or security measures that are being taken in this line of work, which means people could get mugged or robbed or even worse. Scary to think about. And just like I mentioned above, a lot of people get into this line of work because of feelings of hopelessness, drug use, poverty, or just trying to take care of their basic needs and survival, like eating. The picture that I chose said, "People are not for sale." When people think of sex tourism in a negative way, it usually has to do with the idea of people selling their bodies. So that's why I chose this photo. My counter argument, I have two main counter arguments. One being the notion of romance, affection, sincerity, honesty, and even love that can play a factor in sex tourism, even with the intention of going somewhere or the unintention of falling in love. It does happen. Another huge aspect is the more sex tourists there are equals more money and an even better economy, which is very important for areas that live in poverty. Sex tourism is a multi-billion-dollar industry, so that makes up for a lot of the economy in certain places like the Caribbean, which was shown in slide 3. My rebuttal, I argued that love can be one-sided, especially when there is compensation involved. Even if somebody feels like they are in love, it might not be something that's in return because money is being involved. That's almost like a bribery in a way. And this photo is labeled "Relationships versus finances. Is love more important than money?" And that is the debate when it comes to this. My second rebuttal has to do with how sex tourism is connected to relations between wealthy and underprivileged countries and the global economy. So unfortunately, wealthy people, target these certain countries that live in poverty. So there's more of a sense of control and power when it comes to this. And it's unfortunate that money and the economic status of a country contributes to people preying on the poor and less fortunate for self-gratification. In conclusion, gender does not influence the notion of right or wrong greatly when it comes to equality in sex tourism, especially since it's more gender equal now. Sex tourism is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and it continues to thrive to this day. Places ranging from the eastern parts of Asia to the Caribbean benefit and thrive economically from this type of tourism specifically. And the lesser known forms of sex tourism relates to romance and the affection aspects such as cuddling and escorting, which are the aspects that people usually don't think about when they think of sex tourism. But these are contributing factors as well. And unfortunately, many tourists do target the less fortunate and poverty-stricken locations that involve legal sex work. And that is what I learned while researching this. I thought it was a very interesting topic, and I loved learning about it. Hopefully you do as well. Thank you.